Hello. Street theatre and the purpose of it. If you've been a victim of street theatre, you will notice that it is extremely bizarre and that it doesn't make any sense and you can't work it out. That's your conscious mind that's been presented with something that is deliberately engineered and put together to do that to you. What is happening in street theatre, and I will give an example of one of the very, very many examples that I could give of street theatre that have happened to me, but this one's particularly obvious, and I'll explain what is actually happening. This is over several years. This type of thing has been done to me now, and it is designed to momentarily suspend your thinking mind, wrap it up in something busy, so that it is searching for answers. It's thinking, what's gone on there then? That is deliberate, and that is because they are generally, what I've noticed at that time, is they are trying to create that in your brain over and over again. They're creating neural pathways, believe it or not, and they're obliterating other neural pathways as well. You may notice that afterwards you feel very strange. You probably won't at first until this has been done repeatedly to you. What is happening is there's something changing. You're very aware of that something's either been done to you or physically, or your brain is just feels like you've been zapped, or you feel like, and that is exactly what they're doing. That is the brain state that by repeatedly giving you these little mini traumas that confuse your conscious mind. And they're also putting in triggers as well at the same time, which you're completely unaware of. Why? Because you are busy trying to work out what the heck is going on. And that is how it's done. And that is how they do it. The trigger won't be as effective if they don't present you with some kind of a shock or some kind of a mini trauma. It doesn't even have to be that traumatic, but the more so, the better. What is for definite is that your conscious mind is going to be so busy trying to work out what is going on with the weirdness, the bizarre situation you've just been presented with. I'm not talking about directed conversation, which is very easy to work out. I'm talking about the scenes that you're presented with. I'll give an example of one of them. But first I'll explain that what happens to you at that second, those moments when you observe in the street theatre and afterwards as well, that is the brain state that they are cultivating by giving a repetition. The street theatre may be different every single time, but the effects on you and on your brain, they know the effects. They will be the same every time, and the more they repeat it, the effect will deepen until at one point the trigger will be embedded, and anything to do with this street theatre and the trigger will cause you to go into this kind of a trance state where your conscious mind is off somewhere else, and then they can tell you what to do, tell your subconscious what to do, and put programs in. What could those programs be? They could be anything. Depends how deep they can get you, how effective they can do this. Right, so I'll give an example. Also, I have a suspicion that besides this, it's really useful to have a camera on you. And also, I don't mean to get it out, because chances are what is happening is the street theatre, you're presented with it just so quickly, and you just won't have any idea that you won't, and you'll be in such shock, you won't have any idea about getting your camera out of your pocket. But if you've got something recording all the time and you manage to catch this sort of thing, you'll see what I'm saying is actually true, that other things are going on as well, besides the actual scene that they're presenting you with. There is a lot of sense behind it, what seems completely nonsensical. So I'll give you an example of the street theatre that happened to me about 2 weeks ago. I was going somewhere, a regular route where I normally go, and when I reached a very quiet 2-lane street not far from the house of the person I was visiting, and this has happened before. It's not a one-off, it's happened before, and I immediately sensed it as soon as I was coming up. There was a black Jeep in the middle of the road, and around the Jeep and around the area, the scene, were children on bicycles and some children on foot. When I say children, I mean between the age of about 7 and 14. Quite a large group of children. And there was somebody lying in the road, as if now, I won't say as if, because that's what they were doing the whole scene for. I'll tell you what the scene was, and then we can go into that later and how it works. So there was a person lying down in the road in front of the Jeep wearing a bright red jumper, and they were just lying down. So, seeing this, I'm walking up. Some of the children on bikes turn their heads to look at me, as if they was expecting me to say something like, "Oh, what's happened there?" And remember, I saw the back of the black Jeep first, because it was facing the direction I was going. I hadn't seen the person in front of it, but I knew something was off. Seeing this crowd of kids around this black Jeep. So they turned to look at me, and I didn't say anything, but it was obvious they was expecting me to. And then when I walked a little bit further, I saw the person lying down on the road, and the driver was still sat in the Jeep. And then, just as I saw the person lying down in the road, they just got up and walked off. And then the Jeep just drove in the same direction that I was heading to, and went down the same road where I was going, and everybody just dispersed. So, to explain how that captures your conscious mind, it's very easy. One, first of all, perfectly rational. What is everybody doing gathered round? Well, what's happened? What's happened? They've got your attention. That's the first thing. Then you see a scene that just does not make sense. Well, if somebody's been run over, why is the driver still in the car? Why is nobody attending to this person? And then you see the person get up and walk off. And then the car just drives off in the direction you're going, which is, if you've been under surveillance or you've been followed or gangstalked, you'll be uncomfortable with that anyway. So you've got all these things, all these questions. What's just happened there? What's happened? And nobody at the scene is talking about it. Nobody's talking to each other. They just go. They just leave. And that is abnormal. All of it's abnormal. And you know how you would react in a scene if there had just been an accident or something. There was no conversation whatsoever between anybody. And there was definitely the looking at me, expecting some kind of a reaction from me. And it was obvious that had just been set up, because I go that regular route, and that is the way I go there. So that's an example of street theatre, and hopefully you can work out why it's being done to you if you're having street theatre. Again, attention. They need your attention, and then they keep your conscious. It's the same stuff they're doing, but they're using different tactics to achieve this brain state within you. And then once what's going on? That's so, no, but they can't do that. That's what they want, because then your subconscious is completely free for them to put their nonsense in without the interference from your conscious mind. Because if they didn't do all this street theatre when they was putting in the triggers and the programming, what would happen? And the sensitizing, what would happen is your conscious mind would see it or hear it and would go, "Oh, I'm not having any of that." Because once your conscious mind is involved in it, you can start making sense of it and rationalising it. And then whatever trigger they're putting in isn't going to be as effective. I know for certain that I have filmed things and I have recorded things, and at the moment, like I say, when you experience the street theatre, you're in so much shock and that you just forget to get your camera out and start filming things or recording things. But on the occasions when I've managed to do this, I've been recording because something has caught my attention prior to that, or I've heard something, and then the street theatre has just happened, so I've just left it on. What I've noticed is that there's this, besides this weird kind of spaced out feeling, as if I can't quite think, as if I've had my brain wiped or something. It's horrible. Besides that, after witnessing street theatre, and this didn't happen the first few times, it's only after several years of it, what evidence I got for myself was that they were trying to put in a trigger which was tapping, like on several occasions. And on several other occasions, I was what I will call gang stalked and harassed, where people would do this. And at first I didn't get it. And then I noticed that the people that were doing it were looking at me, and they was looking at me while they was doing it. So they was trying to connect in some sort of way, and sort of, I don't know, is it telepathy? But, I'm knocking for whatever reason. That's what they seem to be doing. And this was extremely strange. Plus, there's other things like knocking like that on my door very late at night as well. And what I found was that this knocking had been done during some incidences at street theatre that I'd actually managed to have my recorder on at the time when the street theatre was going on. And also it was in the backings of some of the subliminals as well, obviously, that were put in the tracks I was given a while ago. And when you hear things like that first time, you think it's accidental. But over time, when it keeps reoccurring, it is deliberate. And from what I've just mentioned, there's many instances of street theatre. Some are even more bizarre than that. They really are. From what I've mentioned, it's obvious that if you're a victim of this, you do not want them to get your attention. You want to, I think, do something else, think something else, anything, preferably something that keeps your brain very, very busy. If you're any good at crosswords and puzzles and things like that, something where your brain's going to be really intense, occupied, and it's going to shut out everything around you and just be focused on that task. I think that if you think there's any impending street theatre coming up, trying your best not to witness it. You do not want those triggers to go in. You might think, oh, I won't, but you won't even know what the triggers are unless you are filming or recording and you carefully listen back. You are not going to know what their game is and what it is they're trying to do. I can tell you what they're trying to do, but you won't know how they're going about it, what they're going to use on you, what they want you for. None of it's good, I can guarantee that. I'll be brief here, but this is just the beginnings of trying to knock you out of your body for a period of time, whereas they can have access to your subconscious mind. And over time, the more they do this, the more they can get that brain state, the strengthening the pathways, and eventually even the tiniest little trigger that you associate with the street theatre, it will have a subconscious effect on you and put you into that brain state. That's what they're doing. It's like stoking up a fire. Every time they put some of the street theatre in front of you, it's like they're adding coal to the fire. They're adding coal to it. And when the fire is bright enough, that is, the neural pathways are really strong, then they don't really have to add much fuel to get a big blazing fire. Or rather, should I say, they don't have to do much. They don't have to do a full scenario of street theatre in order to get that brain state, which is the one that they're using to put the crap in, the programming in, the subliminals in, the triggers in, the negative programming, whatever they're putting in. They'll only need to put a slight thing in, and whoop, your brain will go straight over to that state. So what they're trying to do, I'll end now, this is enough, I'll recapitulate, what they're trying to do now is, with the street theatre, is create a brain state, deepen it by repetition, and by repetition, strengthen the actual brain state, the neural pathways, by keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. And then when they have done that, there is triggers there, and the tiniest little trigger will switch you over to that brain state, which is the blank, shocked, what's going on, right? You don't know what's going on. But when they've done that, you won't be, how can I put it? You won't be that zonked out feeling. It almost feels like you've been attacked with some kind of weapon. And that is a possibility. That's another possibility with street theatre, that they're having you to look at the street theatre while there's somebody out of sight blasting you with something. That's another possibility. But generally, in my experience, when they've used directed energy weapons on me, they have been quite obvious about it. They've wanted me to know that they've used them on me. Well, a particular type, that's the type that burns. I don't know about the mind control type. So it's obvious that you don't want them to get your attention. Don't pay attention to any street theatre. And the best way is to put your mind on something else, where you're thinking about something else. And they use auditory things such as sound a lot. What I've noticed from my evidence, my recordings, are that they have things overlapping, definitely. So they will have 2 or 3 people speaking at the same time, and then they might have, you won't even hear that. You won't even hear it. But that, obviously, because it keeps reoccurring, there's obviously a reason for it. It's not accidental. None of it is. And I'm going to end this now, but I'm going to tell you that they are definitely trying to steal your psyche. Definitely. This isn't about making you get up at a certain time, making you go to bed at a certain time, making you do a particular type of work. Or this is about stealing who you are. It's so bizarre. It really is. Yeah, it's so bizarre that it's very difficult to believe that it's going on. But it is. And if you know what's going on, if you don't react to it, and you try and work out what they're doing, the effects of what they're doing generally, how that's supposed to work, or what it could be done for, rather than just falling prey to it. Oh, that's my neighbour making noise. Instead of falling prey to it and thinking, oh, I feel this, or I feel that's going to happen at first, but try and work out why they would do this. Why would they put things in? There is a reason for everything. They're not going to go out of their way just to annoy you. You can annoy somebody in easier ways than that. They're going out of this way to detach you from your psyche. They're trying to knock you out of your body and take over your mind. Really. Okay, thank you. God bless.